So the other day on Instagram, I did my weekly question, and basically my followers asked me questions and I answer them accordingly on my stories. And the one question I got asked the other day was, were you always this disciplined, or was this something that you learned over time? What I loved about this question is it really got me to reflect on the 33 years that I've been living on this planet Earth, my upbringing, and I guess my story as to how I am the way I am and what brought me to be in the place in which I am currently. Now, when it comes to discipline, at least with my opinion, it's really subjective. There's no definitive answer on what constitutes you being disciplined. Now, to some people, I might be disciplined, and to other people, I may not be. Now, I know that I can be far more disciplined in some areas, but I do also know that I'm quite disciplined in some. Now, I'll give you an example. If I was thrown into an environment where there were a bunch of David Goggins, I probably wouldn't come across that disciplined. But then on the flip side, if you threw me into a group of 16-year-olds that are skipping school, then I'd come across quite disciplined. So am I disciplined or am I not? And this is why it's a subjective statement, because it really depends on who you're asking and who you're being compared to. Now, growing up, my background story, I was brought up in a household where I had my two loving parents, both of them who are still alive to this day, both married. And we were brought up in quite a disciplined household from a health and fitness standpoint. Both my parents, to this day, again, both are active and hitting the gym. And throughout my upbringing, we were constantly playing sports, football or soccer, skateboarding, always active, running around as children do and as children should do. And on top of that, from a food standpoint, my dad was pretty militant with, what we were putting in our bodies. Sugary drinks were, a foreign item within the household. Very rarely would we indulge in, packeted foods, chips, things like that you'd probably see the everyday child, indulging in just free willy-nilly these days. So I guess the upbringing from that standpoint, we had drummed into our system that this is the right thing to do. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I still loved drinking sugary drinks, eating chips, as any child does. But, I was under the control of my father at the time, and I guess whatever he would do, then we would just follow. I mean, if he put a steak on the plate, then we'd be eating a steak. But, if he gave us a packet of chips, then we'd eat a packet of chips. So through my upbringing, I guess there were good foundations being laid. And that's not to say that I was a perfect child. I mean, we as a family, coming from a migrant-based background, my family immigrated from Greece to Australia in the 60s and 70s. We prioritized working hard, getting an education, and ensuring that, we had better opportunities than what our parents and grandparents had in Greece back in the day. Now, that's not to say that I prioritized education. I went to 3 high schools, so somewhere along the lines I wasn't doing the right thing. But every time that I was engaging in activities which were deemed the wrong, because I had so many positive influences throughout my life, through my parents, through my grandparents who brought me up, and through religion, I always knew intrinsically that when I was doing the wrong thing, it was the wrong thing. I just made decisions to do the wrong thing because I believed at the time that whatever the consequences may be, I could live with. Now, because of my upbringing, I always had that on my conscience, and I always had a guilty conscience for the things that I was doing that were wrong, which kind of kept me in line through my disciplinary acts. So when I reflect on my childhood years, yes, I was somewhat disciplined. I was doing the right things. I was actively moving. I was eating the right things, but I wasn't 100% straight arrow. I was always screwing around. But it really wasn't until my late 20s where I found all of this kind of merged together, and all the decisions that I'd been making throughout my teenage years, throughout my 20s, I really saw the compounding effects. Plus, there were a few catalysts which were a big reason as to, again, where I am to this day, which by no means is anything extraordinary, but I like to say at least it's probably better than the average bear. And the few catalysts were, number one, COVID kicked in. Number two, I had a real good chance to reflect on the women that I was allowing within my life, and I realized that I was looking for something a little bit more long-term as opposed to short-term, and the way I was involving myself with women was really behavior that wasn't admirable. That's a story for another day. And thirdly, I actually stepped into the coaching world. And this was a very important factor towards all of this, because I knew deep down that if I was going to become a coach that was worth hiring, if I was going to become a husband worth loving, a husband that could acquire a woman by his side that would live and die for him, uphold his last name to the highest degree, if I was going to become a man that was worth listening to, that could influence positively the world, there's no way any of that could eventuate without a level of discipline. And once I realized that, I started acting way differently. Everything just basically kicked up a notch. I started taking care of my diet a lot more. I started taking care of my physique a lot more. I started following my religion a lot more. I started thinking about every decision that I would make, what would be the consequences and what would the effects be from a positive standpoint and from a negative standpoint. And if and when I make those decisions, do they align with the values that I uphold? And will they affect positively those that I coach and those people around me, to uplift them to also make better decisions? So once I really understood that, and again, this really came in my late 20s, I really saw the changes start catapulting to levels that I hadn't seen in many, many years. And as a byproduct of that, I then started to not only garner great results for me financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and through my relationships, this also allowed me the opportunity to help all those around me, because now I started to become somebody worth listening to. And when I started to become someone that was worth listening to, because of the disciplinary traits that I instilled and continue to instill, the relationships that I garnered through the clientele that I coach, they initially began because people wanted to get fitter, faster, stronger for their athletics, for their football, for their physique, whatever their desired goals were. But once I started becoming a far better human overall, the conversations, the testimonials that I would garner from my clients started to elevate to a level which wasn't just, hey, I signed a contract with this club, thank you so much. It got deeper to the point where it was, hey man, not only did I sign that contract, or hey man, not only am I far more physically fit than what I was prior to working with you, it was, man, my relationship with my wife has far exceeded levels that I never believed that I could have gotten to before. Hey man, I'm starting to earn more money. Hey man, I've now landed a job which was unfathomable a year ago. And it's really opened up my eyes to the world of fitness, how people get in there and they want to get in because they want to look good. But once they dip their toes into the world of fitness and understand that it's more than just looking good, it's what comes with that as a byproduct. And this all starts from how disciplined you are. Because disciplinary traits within your sport, within the gym, with really anything in life, bleed into other factors of your life. And this is the old saying where, you know, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I'm really seeing that right now. And I want to at least share this with you guys to give you guys some realization that discipline in one factor can assist and will affect you in so many other factors. It's not just the gym, it's everything. Most people start with the gym, and it's a beautiful thing because once you unlock that, you really see your entire world shape up to be completely differently. And the one key point I want you guys to take away from this is how you act. I want you to think about every time that you act and you decide to do something, how is that going to affect the people around you? Is it going to be positive or is it going to be negative? Make your decision based on that, and I can promise you that your decisions will not only help you to become better, but those around you, whether it's your loved ones, your friends, your family, your clientele, or even your children, most importantly. God bless and have a good day.